into another dimension, a dimension of understanding. We're entering a place where reality collides with truth. There are no limits, there are no boundaries. This is OffPlanet Radio.
Welcome back to the second hour of OffPlanet Radio Live. I'm Randy Moggins, I think. Sometimes you walk on the wild side and nothing prepares you for the reality of what you'll see. But I think my guest tonight has really broken out some important issues, connecting things in terms of a bigger picture than I think many people have gotten. And this is important information. Once again, I want to bring him back on. His website, again, is upwardvectorpubs.com. The book and the website are themed around Revelation, a briefing for the peoples of Earth. And that's what we're going through tonight. David Griffin, welcome back.
Thank you, Randy.
First off, let's, before we forget it, let people know about the book, where they can get the book, and what they can expect from the book. I think we're inoculating them tonight, but...
Well, I've got a link on my website. It's available on Amazon. They've got inventory in stock, so they handle the billing and the shipping and the whole 9 yards. But I've got a link on my website that will take you directly to the product page. What can you expect? Well, I guess for people that have been listening, there's more data in the book that I have not that we have not discussed that I may actually stay away from, just because you need even more of an ingredient to get up to that. So, there's some pretty interesting data in there. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
Really you do have to laugh, because the immensity of what you're talking about and what we're discussing really can lead to a state of shock. And I think that's the state of shock that people go through as they wake up. I think what you've nutshelled is really the awakening process in a real concise way, because if you go forward, you're going to be confronted with some realities that are going to take you very deep into yourself. Yeah,
absolutely.
We had a question on the chat over at Wolf Spirit Radio, and the question was, what does the guest know about the building of the Phobos base? Was there an existing base that they built on top of, etc.? In other words, details.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know about the Phobos base as far as the construction of it. I do know about the construction of the main Mars base, because I was there while it was under construction, and was actually on the inside of it during part of the construction. Just about died in the process. Very, very close to death on that one, but I managed to survive. But the main Mars base was actually built about 75 million years ago. I'm not sure when the Phobos base was built. I was in there about 250 years ago. This would have been back in 1768 is when I was inside of there. And, of course, at that time it had been there for quite a while, I'm sure.
I don't know if you heard what I played during the break, but I played a piece of music that was basically a spoken word piece, and it talked a little bit about the origins of evil on the planet. Now, it went to the reptilian level, which I know is a bit cartoonish, and we tend to associate the reptilians and the Greys more with the malevolent side. And as you've pointed out, the human form is very common throughout the universes. And what in terms of these controllers, would we visually comprehend of their presence?
Visually, huh?
Well, I guess perceptually maybe is a better way to put it.
Well, perceptually, you'd feel a very, very dark, evil being. If you were to perceive the being on the inside of the body, in other words, don't look at the body. Don't pay attention to the body. Pay attention to the being on the inside of the body. Have you ever met somebody that you just kind of knew instantly? Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's your perception right there.
I guess what I wondered was if you had memories of the visage that these beings may take on.
Oh, well, again, I should... Actually, this is probably a good topic to bring up, because I know, for example, David Icke goes on a lot about shape-shifting reptilians.
Yeah.
Actually, I should probably clear up some misunderstandings there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, a body is just a body. It's kind of like a car. You get around, you drive around in a Chevy for a while till it wears out, and then you go pick up a Ford and drive around in that for a while till it wears out, and then you pick up something else, maybe a Porsche or whatever. So a body is about that level. You shouldn't really place any great significance on the body type. Although I can't recall any of the little gray guys with the big black wraparound eyes. I can't recall any of those that I was friends with.
Right, yeah.
I don't recall meeting one of those that I liked. But as far as the reptilians, yeah, there's a couple of different reptilian races, but they're not necessarily evil. And they're not the ones that are behind the Illuminati. That's false data. And as a matter of fact, I even recalled, to my surprise, having a reptilian body one lifetime. It was actually quite an interesting society. Very much the warrior type of mentality, very, very strong, very independent. Maybe a bit like Vikings, just very, very fiercely strong and independent, but also very, very loyal, high degree of honor. So
sort of like the Klingons, maybe like Worf in Star Trek.
Yeah, actually more like Worf, as opposed to the other ones, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sort of that type of a beingness, yeah, that was sort of the culture. I was kind of surprised when I recalled that. I was like, oh, look at that. I had a reptilian body once. How about that?
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense in going through these life cycles and occupying different planets that we would also take on different forms. I mean, as you pointed out, these are simply shells that we discard and put on again. So, I think, and you walked really beautifully into that by debunking the caricature of the malevolence as being lizard people or, ultimately, and the Greys. I mean, that's a whole entire show in itself, and we've done it.
Now, of course, are there evil reptilians? Sure. Are there evil humans? Absolutely. So there's not any one race that has any great, you can't say that one race is evil and another is good. It doesn't work that way. There's probably some mercenaries, that have reptilian bodies. Yeah, there might be some, but I would not, well, I know for a fact that their race is not behind this. I think that's some counterintelligence false data, personally. And I think he throws around this is, again, my personal opinion, I think he throws around the topic of shape-shifting entirely too lightly. I don't think he has any idea of how high of a spiritual ability that would be to actually do that.
Are you saying that it's not possible, or are you saying that we're dealing with something else when we talk about shape-shifting?
Well, it's possible to create that impression technologically. to, let's say, with a holographic type, some type of projection or something like that, or to implant somebody to make them think that, that's possible also. But as far as actually physically morphing the biological body to morph right before your eyes into a completely different biological structure, oh, sure. Is it possible? Yes. Theoretically, it's possible, but that is such an incredibly high level spiritual ability. I think I might know of maybe one being that might have that ability.
Yeah.
So,
how much into play do we see in terms of dimensional aspects? We live in basically 3 dimensions. My visualization of this is not hard science by any means, because I don't do that, is we live in 3 dimensions with a 4th dimension, which I tend to think of as a time domain. In other words, time seems to be the instrument we are measured by. It is a dimension of itself. So but basically, in terms of physical reality, we have the 3-dimensional spaces. So there are other dimensions above that. Can we agree on that?
I'm not sure that I agree to that.
Okay.
So far, I've not encountered anything that I would call another dimension, let's say beyond what you were just discussing. I've certainly encountered other universes. I recall being in other universes before this one, and there's certainly plenty of other dimensions or other universes out there. But as far as encountering something like another dimension inside of this universe, I've not, personally, I don't recall anything like that, and I don't think I've encountered anything like that. So I'm not sure that I agree to that.
The follow-up to that would be, if that's true, and I don't know, so how does a jump port work? How do you move directionally from one space to another almost instantaneously?
I think that's basically the same technology that the saucers use. As a matter of fact, just recently I was recalling, again, I was just starting to, confront some of my memories of what's gone on up there on the Mars base. And at one point I recall, after I was taken in there, there was one room where I got tortured a bit, and then this door opened, and they let me up from the table, and then this door opened, and this little gray guy suddenly just zipped right up, just, really startled the hell out of me. And as I kept going back and confronting the memory and discharging more, and it became more clear, it seemed that they were actually using something similar there for a mode of transport. It seemed he was actually standing on some sort of a little platform. I haven't quite gotten all of that yet, but it's beginning to look like they were actually using something like that as a mode of transport through there. But essentially, when I was first recalling my memories of going, let's say, from the main Mars base inside of Phobos and going on that, what I call the transport platform, I would kind of liken that to, the old pneumatic tubes that they used to have in buildings for sending, messages, from floor to floor.
Sure, yeah. Okay. I think banks still use them to some degree for some of the remote drive-ups.
Yeah, okay, exactly. It seemed to me to be something very, very similar to that, to where it would create sort of an energy tunnel, and then you would get up on this little metal, it was sort of a metal cage, and it had a high voltage power supply attached to it, so it would sort of create an electrical field around the cage. You would get in, stand there on the inside of the cage, and so you would be sort of like a little shuttle that would go through this energy tube. That's kind of the way it appeared to me.
Okay. And that's actually a good explanation, and I ask you that pointedly because of your engineering background and the fact that I would imagine that you've thought about this and maybe tried to recompose some of that in your...
Exactly. Yeah, but that's, again, this has all been pretty heavily suppressed, memories. Somebody has worked very, very hard to keep me from remembering any of this, so it's, like I said, it's been pulling teeth trying to, get my recall on some of these areas, but... bit by bit, it's coming back.
Let's explore for a minute something that I think both you and I agree on, and that is the obverse side of the Disinfo campaigns out there. And we'll go right to the core of it. It's the love and lighters, the people out there that have galactic councils, and they're believing that very soon now the space beings are going to come back and help us conquer the evil ones, and we'll get money checks from Nasara and all that. How deep of a COINTELPRO operation is that?
Yeah, well, it's just another level. Yeah, it's exactly. Well, as a matter of fact, in that article you were talking about earlier, levels of the game, in that one I was kind of taking it, level by level, and at one point I get back to the galactic level, and back about 75 million years ago, I was back part of this, intelligence and security service called the Loyal Officers. And at that time, what I discovered then was that, and this is a galactic level organization back then, that it was infiltrated and corrupted back then. So to think that its ethics have been put in since then, I don't think so. That's just my, seeing what's gone on here on Earth for the past, just in the past several thousand years, look at all the warfare and bloodshed and what's gone on in the past several hundred years, and I know 250 years ago, I was part of another group, and I was in their intelligence service, and the enslavers had pretty much taken over control of that organization back then too, and unfortunately, it's sort of infested the entire universe to a certain degree, unfortunately. Now, I know that sounds terrible, so we should probably start talking about the the positive side now.
I was kind of walking you towards that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessarily all doom and gloom, and everybody curl up and die now. Some of us. Well, okay, let me back up again. Have you ever had an actual deja vu experience yourself? Oh yeah. And it's been more pronounced in recent years. All right. So were you actually remembered being somewhere or doing something when it was apparently the first time you had actually done it? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's because you have done it before. See, there was an earlier cycle, and everything that we're doing right now, we did it back then. There was a universe 1 and a universe 2, and back before this latest 80 billion year cycle, there was an earlier cycle that was almost identical to this one. Yeah, I tend to call those bleed-throughs because they feel so real. And yet, unless somebody's had them, how do you describe something like that? I know a few people that I can talk comfortably with about it, but quite honestly, it's like a lot of the strangeness that goes on, until you've experienced it, it's almost impossible to accurately present it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't really understand it until you've experienced it for yourself. And once you've experienced it, it's like, oh my God, it just completely changes your entire reality. Right. Yeah. I had one of those too back many years ago when I was going to college. One day I was walking across campus, and then all of a sudden I was just like, holy crap. I suddenly remembered being at that exact point, doing exactly what I was doing, walking, it was like, how is this possible? I remember doing it before, but this was the first time I had done it, and it just completely, it was very destabilizing. Well, and I think, it goes to the heart of this programming, and it's something that I've talked about with some of the people who come out of the projects and people who have had off-world contacts, that you don't trust yourself, and the more traumatized you are, either by this life or by a past life, you tend not to trust your own memories or your own instincts.
about those memories.
Yeah, that's true. I've become pretty suspicious myself about a lot of things. Sure, I have. Sometimes it seems like that's the only safe way to be. It's like, my God, I what can I trust? But ultimately, the only thing that you can really trust is yourself. Ultimately, and you have to get back to. Yeah, I know it can take some work. Believe me, I know. But ultimately, that is what you can trust. Is
kind of like the inner knowing.
Yeah, but it's a matter. Yeah, it's a matter of rediscovering that and getting back in touch with your own innate knowingness.
Having said that, can you share a little bit about maybe the process that you've gone through in your retrieval? And I know you've mentioned a couple of times your ongoing work. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Boy, actually, that could be a show in itself. I will probably bounce off of that area a little bit for now.
Okay.
Just to say that, and there's specific reasons why, but I've left a number of clues scattered about in various places.
As you tend to do throughout most of your material, there's lots of clues, breadcrumbs. Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody wants, if somebody really wants the information, they can find the clues. They can go, find the answer for themselves. But I've left a number of clues on the website, and I've left a number of clues in the book. So if somebody really wanted to pursue that for themselves, they could find the clues, follow the clues, and they would find more data, and then find the correct path. But there's a very particular reason that I won't get into right now why I've done it that way.
Okay, no, that's fine. And if you
maybe at some point we could.
Yeah, I was going to open the door for you to maybe return when you'd like to talk about that, because that's a big part of what I do as well. Is I want to make as much information available to people in whatever way makes sense for them to work through this stuff. And I know there's many ways to do it, and there's a lot of wrong ways to do it too.
Okay, I was just getting an incoming thought, so let me give you a little more data.
Okay.
If you don't mind, somebody's feeding me a little more. There is a very precise technology of the mind and the spirit that has already been developed, tested, codified, etc. It's all ready to go. It's been battle tested, you might say. Matter of fact, I'm part of the testing and battle testing of that, you might say. But as one might expect, the enslavers were naturally drawn to that, well, I didn't want to use that analogy, but
I know, but everybody popped in everybody else's mind too. So we'll just
that analogy. We'll say like bees to honey. That's not the correct one, but anyway. So the enslavers naturally would be drawn to that area just, like a magnet, and would naturally, as one would expect, would infiltrate the area and do their very best to corrupt it and take it over and control it and so forth.
That would be my suspicion,
Yes. Well, that is exactly what has occurred, as we knew it would. So there you go. There's a little bit of data. So there's a number of clues that I've left scattered about, and people can find those clues and follow them if they wish to and get some more data. Let's see, there was something else that I was going to... I can't remember what it was now. Okay, well...
It's okay.
Go ahead and... Okay.
We'll believe it drops back in. It's, we're not formal, so...
Okay. Now I know what it was. Okay. So, getting back to the deja vu aspect, so this is not the first time that we've done this whole thing. This is not the first time we've gone through everything. This is not the first time that Earth has been in this particular. Well, of course, it's a different universe now, but it's been mocked up to be almost identical to what's happened in the past. And all of this whole repeating cycle thing relates directly to the Akashic records and the whole thing of prophecy and that sort of thing. And I happen to have a little something about the Akashic records as well. And there's data in the book about that too. I was actually involved in that.
That's actually synchronistic as well. I'm getting ready to schedule an interview with somebody who's going to talk about that.
Yes, I saw that. I heard that in the opening remarks. Yes, so I thought I needed to get that out there because I do know something about that. I was involved in that project.
These are subjects, by the way, that I go into sometimes with a bit of trepidation when I do it. There are certain subjects, and that's one of them that I've sort of sidestepped until I have a good feeling about it because I know what a rabbit hole it is and I know how alluring it is to people. You know, David, part of what we're dealing with in attempting to communicate solid information is not being pipelines for the bad information. And I know that you've been messed with, I've been messed with in trying to get stuff out.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I've encountered my fair of counter-intention and trying to get the website and the book, and
Yeah, so that can be a whole warfare in itself, maintaining websites and trying to keep something like a stream up. I seem to have a continual, endless flow of mysterious technical failures here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've had my share of challenges and so forth, although it's interesting, I haven't had too many on the technical end for a while, which is nice.
Yeah, those are really bad because they take out your infrastructure, and I'm fairly technically capable, but after a while I just go, there's just like no frickin' way that failed like that. They fail in ways that you just go, I couldn't have seen that coming.
Oh, yeah. Now, lately I've just been getting pounded with very heavy psychotronics. That's been their latest...
yes. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
What you know about psychotronics, because that's a recent subject, too, for me.
Okay. Well, what would you like to know?
Okay. Basically, the psychotronics that they're operating, my understanding of it is a lot of it now is satellite-based, but it's also based through this, the conduit, the vector for this, a lot of it has to do with radio waves, the Wi-Fi's, and things like that. Am I close?
Yep. Matter of fact, I don't know if you saw that email that I sent you. I just put up a new article. Was it yesterday? I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Maybe before.
Yeah, I saw the. Yep.
Yeah. An update on psychotronics. I've actually got a section there on my website that goes. I think I've got like 4 articles now about psychotronics, but. What I've in the past I've run into stuff coming from satellites. I haven't run into those for quite a while though. They haven't been hitting me with any satellites for quite a while. I think satellites are too expensive to replace, so they don't.
Yeah, my producer Dave just piped in and said, "Yeah, tell me about the psychotronic shit." Yeah, so he's been hit. He's been getting. A lot of us have been getting hit with this stuff.
Oh yeah. I've been getting hit with quite a bit of it lately. What I just posted up on my website was something new they seem to have come up with. It's in the past it was much simpler. It seemed in the past I could locate. I would be able to locate the source of the transmission, put my attention on it, and pop it out and do whatever. And it seems that what they've come up with now is an autonomous redundant system, and it's just got gads and gads and gads of emitters, individual discrete emitters that are all hooked up as sort of networked. So if someone had the ability to locate and knock out one of the emitters, it's like 2 more will pop up.
Sort of like bot networks.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I kind of likened it to the Hydra, the
lob one head off. Yeah.
Yeah, where you cut one head off and two spring up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of seems like that's what's been happening. If I'll hit one and knock it out, then two more will come online almost immediately, and so yeah. But it's pretty sophisticated what they're doing. Now what they're actually hitting, though, probably not too many people talk about that. In some cases, the frequencies are designed to, there are very specific frequencies that will actually affect the functioning of the body. And like in a lot of cases, I'm getting hit, so hard that I just feel this sort of vibration and jitteriness all through the whole nervous system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you've gotten that too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. In some cases, they have certain frequencies that are designed to affect certain, specific organs or certain specific functions. A while back, they tried to heart attack me quite a few times. I think they've pretty much given up on that. At one point, they actually had about 5 people and some machines and even some OffPlanet guys, and but they were. Even with that, they were unsuccessful, so they sort of gave up on that. But typically, what they're hitting, though, is they're hitting energy masses of the mind. Now, the mind, of course, is not the body. It's not the brain. And the mind is typically composed of energies and masses. The masses themselves are actually condensed energy, but these masses and energies, kind of frozen walls of energy in a sense, or layers almost, are sort of surrounding you. They're in the space around you, around your body, and so forth. Mm-hmm. And that is typically what the psychotronics are hitting. They're coming in and hitting some of these static energy ridges that are sitting there and causing them to sort of go into restimulation. So they're actually hitting stuff within your own mind, and
Does it tend to hit more on the emotional level? In other words, do they try to put you into certain mind states that would be depression or anxiety?
Well, I think the typical system that they've got for general suppression of the overall populace is sort of the lower emotions, keep people down in apathy. So where they just, they don't want to try, they don't want to, they just want to give up. That's the easiest type of person to control, someone that's given up. So I think that's the general suppression, that's used for the general populace, sort of blanket the area with, apathy. And in my case, for a while, they were actually targeting very, very and I guess they still are, actually. They were actually, and of course this requires a very high level knowledge for them to do this, so I know who it's coming from. They were trying to hit very, very specific ridges, energy ridges surrounding me that relate to specific incidents in my past. And these would have a very, very specific waveform and frequency in order to cause it to go into restimulation, which they would have on record. Mm-hmm. So, of course, what I've been doing, though, is bit by bit, I've been discharging these things and getting rid of them. So each time I go through a new area and I've reached sort of a new plateau, they've got to recalibrate each time because what they were targeting before is now gone, and now they've got to find something else to hit. So
they tend to work off of specific memories, specific aspects of your personality, aspects of your memory stream.
Well, let's see, how do I describe this? Let's say, for example, that let's say there was you're standing in the middle of a train track and there's a train rushing towards you, right? And so your natural reaction is to want to try and stop that train. Okay, so just from an intention standpoint, you would have an intention to stop it, right? Let's say to put out an energy beam to stop it. Okay, so you've got this incoming force, and then you've got an outgoing force that meets it, and where the two of those meet and collide, they sort of slam together and form this sort of static ridge. Mm-hmm. You know how, like, for example, how mountain ridges get formed, where two tectonic plates meet and they push against each other and it pushes up a mountain ridge.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so it's the same sort of thing with energy. You've got an incoming energy and you've got an outgoing energy, and where the two of those meet right in the middle, it forms this sort of static ridge, and these things sort of get frozen in the space all around you and almost forms sort of this energetic cocoon around you, but it's actually your own energy. And it forms in these layers. It's almost like, in a sense, peeling an onion. It's just like layer after layer after layer after layer. And of course, the more layers you get, the more dense it is, and the harder it is to get anything out of it or get anything coming through it. And so it actually will insulate you to a certain degree, but of course, the only way out of the trap is to start getting rid of those layers, and then of course it's like almost like peeling off insulation in a sense too. So sort of a catch-22, but yeah, that's the road out. So that's what you got to do. But anyway, some of these ridges, these energy ridges that are sort of frozen in space around you, they have very, very specific characteristics to them. They might have a very specific frequency and waveform associated with them. So if they can get their psychotronics tuned to that exact one, it can cause that particular ridge to sort of resonate, go into restimulation.
That actually was a very good picture. I was catching that visually as you were describing it. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
So we're kind of bumping up against the last 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
Let's try to give some good news.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we should close on a happy note since we've gotten all this bad information out there, huh? This nasty, damn enslavers. Bastards. Well, okay, so since this has all happened before, and some of us knew what was coming ahead of time. And so we made up some plans to sort of throw a monkey wrench in the enslavers' works. And so actually I've got a little bit of data in that in my book, which actually you might want to grab a copy of that. It actually relates to the Akashic Records also.
Okay, good, yeah.
And I wouldn't trust the Akashic Records. Just throwing that out there, just for whoever. So we already knew all of this was going to occur. Now, here's the real problem. Let's say if an outside force were to come in right now, just show up tomorrow and say, okay, we're here, and they're going to go run around, pick up all the head enslaver guys and grab them and pull them off the planet, and there you go. Okay. In 100 years, we'd be right back in the same mess we are right now.
Yeah.
Because all of us haven't learned our lesson yet.
And this is actually where I keep going back to this whole thing about, the love and light crowd is they're waiting for something outside of themselves to save them. Right.
Now, personally, I think it is going to take some sort of an outside force, but that can't be the only solution. It's got to be sort of a two-pronged, in my estimation, it's got to be sort of a two-pronged approach. Mm-hmm. They can be there to offer some help, but, who's ultimately responsible for following the enslavers' orders, for supporting them, for putting them in power, for doing what they said? It's taken millions and millions and millions of us.
I agree with all of what you just said there. Yeah, that completely agrees with my own paradigm and my own strategy.
Yeah, so I think that all of us have to buck up and take some responsibility for our own part in all of this. And that's sort of what I'm doing too. It's and I know it's not pleasant. I fully understand that.
Yeah.
I've had to confront that too. But that is the way out. We have to learn from our mistakes. Now, of course, somebody's been very diligent in trying to prevent us from learning, by wiping out our memories after every lifetime. They've certainly had their hand in all of that, but so I think it's actually going to take a bit of a two-pronged approach. It's going to have to. I think there's going to have to be some outside help, but it's also going to be a lot of work on our part also. So anyway, getting back to that, so a few of us knew what was coming down the pike, and we made some contingency plans. And so part of what I'm doing right here and right now is a part of that. And I'm, personally, I'm frustrated that it's taking this long for people to wake up, and I'm sure you probably are too. Just look around at the mass of people who are still totally unaware of some of the things that we're talking about, and you realize how long of a road it is to get them up to confronting.
But I'm kind of like the inverse of Occupy Wall Street. I focus on the 1 or 2% because I know that there is a lift effect that takes place.
Yeah.
I'll use the word consciousness here just to say that it appears as though there is right now a critical mass occurring. It appears as though we have this window of opportunity because of the way things have been so horribly screwed up, where the average person is at least getting the sense something's wrong, and there are people out there speaking truth, and whatever the internet represents, I'm not a worshiper of technology. I'll use it. And in this case, we have this technology for whatever period of time, and I'm willing to use it. I'm willing to drive it right into the wall in order to find a few more people out there, pluck them out, and get them set up so they can kind of, run a little bit on their own, just like we're all trying to do.
Yeah.
In my mind, this is not where I'm saying, hey, I arrived, I'm there, and you need to get this. It's like, hey, we're all struggling together, and we're kind of pulling each other along.
Exactly, yeah. Yep. So the good news is that we knew ahead of time that this was going to happen, and we made some contingency plans, and the future, though the enslavers would like you to think that it's all written in stone, it ain't. They've done their best to try and make it appear that way, but no, the future is not fixed. It is malleable. It is ever-changing. And any change you make in the present propagates into the future. So,
is there a safe haven anywhere in all of these universes? Is there some place where we don't have the continual battle? Is there a rest? Is there a place?
I'm not sure, but if there is, that's where I'm going for my next vacation. I wish I had a happy answer for you there, but unfortunately, I don't at this point.
Well,
other than
our conversation's been, devoid of what I would call religious overtones for a reason, and I think that's because you and I kind of unconsciously agreed that that's not the answer either, that's part of the placebo effect that's been fed to us. I mean, specifically, I don't recall you writing on this, but to me, most spirituality has felt too well-formed and too comfortably numb for me to embrace. I have gone through the gamut of things. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, I feel there's a pull, there's something, there's a force, but it's kind of like it's not what people think it is. It's not like surrendering yourself to something so that you can be, to use a vernacular, saved or delivered from something.
Right. Yeah. I think ultimately it's up to each of us to save ourselves. It's been my experience so far.
That may be the hardest truth you've dropped tonight.
Really? Oh, sorry.
No. Don't ever apologize for that. We work through hard truth here.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, that's been my experience, that each of us individually is responsible. And yeah, I know this is actually, you're right. This is a very hard truth, that ultimately each of us is responsible for our own condition. Yeah. That is a hard one to face. I know.
How much feedback do you get from people who have consumed your materials?
Not much. For most people, there's a few that'll read it and go, "Oh my God, that was great," and then they'll have some questions for me. Mm-hmm. But I think the vast majority of people, when they read it, they're like kind of stunned, I think, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
It's because it does take a bit of readjustment.
This isn't a popularity contest at all. Doing this kind of I guess advanced intelligence work. Yeah,
ultimately, the reason people don't know things is because they don't want to.
And that's kind of fed the machine.
Yeah. And, I find that even in myself, there's, when I'm going into a new area that's very difficult, it's like, oh God, no wonder I didn't want to look in there. There's pain and terrible things in there. No wonder I didn't want to look. But, the way out is the way through. You just got to confront it, and, you just got to go back and nibble at it. And eventually, of course, you discharge it, and then you can laugh about it. Once it's all discharged, you can look back at it, laugh at it, and talk about it with no emotional charge. But, when you're first entering it, there can be a lot of charge.
Oh, and for the listeners out there, I know somebody on the chats said they're having trouble keeping the stream running without refresh. That may be a bandwidth issue on the website itself, or it may be your browser or computer background processes.
I saw that too. It just seemed to be a time delay, like you hadn't done anything.
Yeah, and some of that, who knows what that is. That's one of the things about streaming is it's not like radio. It's got an infrastructure that is reliant on a whole lot of things that we don't control. So sorry about that. If you're if you're listening on the Flash player, and a screen refresh is probably the only way. I got to get some links up for players so that you can listen to the stream locally on your computer. I know Dave has links for those. Sorry about that. And just consider that that's all part of the spiritual warfare that you're engaged in as well. David, it has been really amazing to talk to you and to hear all the things that you've put out. One more time, give out your website, information about the books, or the book, and anything else you want to leave us with tonight. Okay. Well, it's Upward Vector Publishing, and the site is upwardvectorpubs.com. Title of the book is Revelation, a Briefing for the Peoples of Earth. And I know we've put out a lot of rather unsettling information, but it's better that the truth get out there and people start confronting it than to keep it hidden, because that's the only way that any of this is ever going to get resolved. So, absolutely. Yeah. I offer you an invitation to come back and talk about more. And as you get more and you wish to release more information, I hope that maybe you'll grace us with that information as well, because it's it's been a pleasure. Absolutely. So next week we have E.A. James Swager will be here. He's from the UK, and he's going to be talking about the Newgrange Sirius mystery, which goes back to very, very early in my life. That was something that I spent a lot of time studying, was Sirius, and we'll see what he has to say about it. It's interesting material. That will be next week, and you can always find the schedules for the shows on the websites offplanetradio.com and offplanetradio.net. And there are some changes coming to the streaming site. We're going to upgrade, and there's always stuff going on. So also there's shows that are posted that aren't live. We do some interviews from time to time that just get posted over to the site. So you want to look into that as well. Till next week, I want to wish you all a great weekend, a great holiday. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and don't forget who you are in all of that. The truth is out there. It's inside you. Keep looking for it. We'll be back very soon.